The Bounds of Earth, written by Neill, narrated by Allie James. I placed roses at the foot of the Roman towers again today for my lovers who loved each other. I didn't know what to make of them at the start, finding myself enmeshed in their curious lives. Beautiful young men risking death for us all. I watched them do it, and because I loved them, I kept my promise. I did not grieve, but planted roses. Chapter 1. Dogfight. "We can risk it for a while, Sally," I shouted as we heard the engine noises in the distance and that day's skirmishing began. "We'll just let the sheep into the orchard and shelter under the hedge until it's safe to pick the cherries." "It'll probably be all right if they're not directly overhead," said my friend from the land army, "though I don't know about being up that long ladder. The hedge might be a better option," she observed, studying the thin, wedge-like shape used for cherry-picking, reaching high into the top of the tree. Of course, we were used to the plains by then, living as we did within a few miles of the airfield. Yet somehow, on that particular day, looking up at the circling shapes in the sky, I was more conscious than ever of what was happening in the Straits of Dover to the south as the crow flew. Perhaps it was that broadcast last evening, I thought, as I guided the last reluctant animal through the gate towards the lush grass between the trees. My head was still full of that live account of the attack on the convoy. I could see us all sitting in the farmhouse, gripped by the screaming of the dive bombers, the rattle of the defending machine guns, the amazed urgency in the reporters' voices, his enthusiasm as an enemy plane was hit, but above all else, the noise. The noise. It kept drumming into my head as though it were coming closer. Suddenly, I became aware that it was no longer in my head. It was definitely coming closer. In fact, it was too close for comfort. I rushed to close the gate and Sally shooed the sheep further into the orchard. They would have to take their chance. A moment later, we were under the hawthorn hedge. The hedge was definitely the better option, I informed my friend, as we watched the planes circling and diving, chasing, swooping across the sky, leaving great trails of white against the blue heights. An occasional explosion marred the summer stillness, then black clouds wept their way to earth. "I hate it when one gets hit," said Sally, looking up at the battle, "and you don't know whether to be glad because it's an enemy downed or sad for the waste of a young life. I always—" "Get down, Sally," I shouted, pushing her vigorously, further into the hedge. Just in time, thank God, for a plane taking evasive action skimmed the tops of the cherry trees, then roared off over the hill. The sheep were in a state of panic, running in every direction. More engine noises, and suddenly there were two more planes right above us, wheeling and turning, clattering machine guns clearly audible. They flew higher to continue the battle, chasing each other around the sky. Then we knew one was hit, as black smoke obscured the fuselage and it began its death dive. It was coming towards us. We pressed ourselves to the ground, huddling close to the roots of the trees, praying it would go on further. There was an unbearably loud roar as the sky erupted in flames above us, a moment's silence, then a dull splash as the plane hit the sea. "I think that was one of ours," whispered my friend, struggling to her feet and brushing down her dungarees. "How awful." "No, look, Sally, he got out. There's his parachute. He's coming this way." Time seemed to stop as we watched the pilot gently swaying backwards and forwards, then a sudden acceleration and he rushed nearer, finally crashing through the cherry branches and hitting the ground with a sickeningly violent lurch. Then stillness. I looked at the crumpled figure, not knowing in that second that I had met my future. "Quick, Sally, run to the ARP post and tell them to phone for an ambulance." "On my way," she shouted, jumping the gate. As she sprinted down the lane, I headed towards the stricken pilot, fearing what I might find. The battle had moved further away now, and I could hear birds singing. A curious unreality. When I reached him, I was sure he was dead. Strangely, there was no blood, though his flying jacket and gloves were badly singed. I beat the smoldering flames with my cardigan until they were extinguished, then felt his neck pulse anyway, as we'd been taught to do. He was breathing, thank God, even though his leg was sticking out at an odd angle, and there might be other injuries I couldn't see. Despite his smoke-blackened face and flying goggles, I could see elegant features.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?